All right, welcome everybody. ASAP Grim here, and this is the intro video for our fourth Chronicle in Elden Ring. Now that might take a little bit of explanation. These Chronicles are done as I play the game. So the first Chronicle was me dipping my toes into a Dark Souls style game for the first time ever. The second Chronicle was me following Fighting Cowboy's walkthrough guide until I finally got it through my thick head what he had been telling me for a while, and that's that uh, you don't want to use his walkthrough guide as your first playthrough. That's not what it's intended for, and he really actually strongly urges you not to do that. Your experience on your first playthrough is unrepeatable. It's completely unique. And so, beginning with the third Chronicle, that's me giving it another shot with a little bit more experience behind me, and starting off with a new format where I was going to do a Chronicle that was tied to the zone I was working in. So that first Chronicle was what I would call Greater Limgrave. It's the starting area, or that third Chronicle, I should say. It's the starter area. And this Chronicle here is going to be covering Stormhill, which is actually still part of Limgrave. But we're going to range around and discover Stormhill. And I'm guessing that we will also do Stormvale Castle, since that's a part of Stormhill. That means that we'll be taking down Margaret as well. But it really kind of depends on how long it takes us to discover Stormhill proper. I might split those into two different Chronicles, where you have one for Stormhill and then one is dedicated to Stormvale. I don't really quite know. I'll have to play it by ear, so to speak. But 2.5 minutes in, let's get the content briefing done. I don't want anybody going in and getting blindsided by what kind of game this is. So the official ESRB rating has it rated M for mature, and they give it a 17 plus mature rating, blood and gore, language, suggestive themes, and violence. The rating summary says this is an action role-playing game in which players assume the role of a character trying to retrieve a magical ring and become the Elden Lord. From a third-person perspective, players explore environments, collect items, and battle various enemies. Each unites fantastical creatures in melee combat. Players use swords, spears, axes, arrows, and magic on enemies. Combat is highlighted by cries of pain, splatters of blood, and impact sounds. The game includes depictions of gore, collectible items that include severed fingers and tongues, a boss character cutting off its arm, severed arms hanging from a ceiling. During the course of the game, a humanoid monster is depicted partially nude, with scales or scars. I think it's like scales/scars, it's both, covering its breast and pelvic regions. The SH word appears in the dialogue. And then my preferred site, commonsensemedia.org, rates it age 11 plus, intense fantasy, as brutal, bloody, medieval style combat. They give it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm sorry, Common Sense says that it should be age 15 plus. That sounds a little bit more appropriate to me, but you guys make your own decision. How you run your house is your own business. Down here, what parents need to know. I like to read this section. Parents need to know that Elden Ring, it's not just, by the way, this is not just for parents. This is for, there are people out there that they get squeamish at the sight of blood. This is for you. And then maybe we might call that you and yours. Right, but this little section here called What Parents Need to Know gives a nice briefing on some of the stuff you're going to run up against. Parents need to know that Elden Ring is a fantasy role-playing game for Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Windows PCs. A collaboration between Japanese developer From Software, the makers of Dark Souls, and renowned fantasy writer George R.R. Martin of A Song of Ice and Fire. You might know that more as Game of Thrones. This open world RPG is tough and intense. Assuming the role of a customizable hero, you can select gender, skin tone, and voice. Players quest to restore the game's titular ring, a powerful artifact shattered long ago. Players spend the bulk of their time exploring a world filled with aggressive humanoids and monsters, including goblins and trolls, as well as fantasy animals such as huge crabs and massive bears. Combat, sometimes from atop a horse, is frenetic and bloody, involving swords, axes, shields, bows and arrows, and magic. Red blood sprays from wounds and coats the hero's armor, and bodies are seen strewn on the ground. The fighting can be very difficult, with death potentially resulting in lost progress. Themes of perseverance and pride in accomplishing difficult tasks emerge organically through play. Limited online play encourages players to cooperate with each other to achieve objectives, as well as engage in friendly competition against others. One of the enemies appears partially nude, with only scales obscuring its breasts. The words hell and the SH word appear in dialogue. So I think that gives a pretty decent heads up on what kind of content is in this game. As for my part, we're coming up on September, and I like to, or I want to put series together that fit the moods of the season. And that really tends to happen in fall and winter, not so much on the other half of the year, spring and summer. But in fall, Halloween, we've got Halloween coming up. And so the two series that I've selected to get going right now, so that we're kind of in full swing and in progress of getting them done as we hit Halloween, is what I'm anticipating anyway, are Elden Ring and Skyrim. And my Skyrim, I'm doing a live stream right now to kind of learn all of the different mods I'll be using. I'm doing the Wabbajack Septimus 3 mod list. It's over 800 mods. And I'll be doing a Dawnguard playthrough on that one, where we're hunting vampires. And so that's in this game here, Elden Ring, you're facing a lot of monsters, and you're kind of you were raised from the dead kind of thing, and it's just it's kind of a nightmare world that has beauty. Well, you know what? It's kind of a beautiful world that has nightmares unleashed within it. And so I think that both of those games fit this Halloween theme, or at least the feel that I'm looking for this time of year. I love fall. I love as the season turns and the leaves start to turn, and the whole transition from the dog days of summer into cool, brisk days. And then you got the two major holidays, at least for Americans. You have Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving and Christmas coming in at the end of fall and early winter. And Halloween is kind of like the opening door into that season, So anyway, hopefully this works out well, and we have we're playing the right kind of games with the right kind of feel and our actual, the real world, and it all meshes well together. That's what I'm hoping for. But we will be, once again, we're doing Stormhill. I am at this time planning on including Stormvale Castle in that, but we'll have to play it by ear and see how things go. I'm new at the game. I'm not an expert. I've had the game since pretty close to release, but I don't binge play like a lot of people do. And because I record YouTube series, then it takes me a few months to get through a YouTube series. So I'll cycle through games, and I'll go through 4 or 5, some maybe 6 games, and then I come back full circle. And so now I think my last Elden Ring was done in the spring, and it's been a few months now, of course, and so now I'm back to it. And so I'm going to be rusty. I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but that's what this playthrough is supposed to do. It's supposed to chronicle a first-time experience. The last thing I want to say is that this game I've started and stopped a number of times, and so Limgrave I'm pretty familiar with. But as we get into Stormhill, we're really starting to get into blind territory. I'm somewhat familiar with Stormhill, and I have played. I've defeated Margaret. I've faced and defeated Margaret once. I don't even really remember the encounter. I don't remember any of the move sets or anything like that. And I've never been inside Stormvale Castle. So I am trying to play a Holy Paladin type. And I started out really wanting to do the one-handed and shield and go with that route. But as I was playing, I picked up the winged scythe. I think I said that right. Scythe. That's a word that I struggle with. That's a two-hander, and I have a desire to pick up Great Stars wherever it is that I get that at whatever point in time, and that is a two-handed warhammer. So I'm really thinking we're probably going to wind up moving towards two-handed, and I believe the latest patch, the latest patch for Elden Ring was a really big one, and it seemed to improve two-handed play. I think it sped some of the move sets up. If I remember right, maybe reach also was a part of that, but I'm not for sure. So anyway, I'm just kind of trying to give a glimpse of where the character might be going. I have a rough idea of what I'm doing, but I'm probably a lot more ignorant and in the dark than I am knowledgeable and clear on what it is that I want to do, and that's the nature of this particular playthrough. It's very quickly about to turn into a blind playthrough. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting really close. So Stormvale Castle, once again, Stormvale Castle, I've never been inside. I've never stepped foot inside Stormvale Castle. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Again, I'm Aesop Grimm. Thank you for coming by the channel. I hope you like what you saw. More importantly, I hope all is well in your neck of the woods, and I'll see you in the next episode where this story begins.